Welcome to Community Conversations. I'm your host, Hally, and as the Assistant Director of Government and Community Relations at Villanova University, I am delighted to bring you the extraordinary people making an impact on our campus community and beyond. Today, I will be speaking with Parris Bradley, Executive Director of the John and Joan Mullen Center for the Performing Arts. Thank you for joining me.
I am thrilled to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, wonderful. My pleasure. So the Mullen Center is one of the newer facilities on Villanova's campus, and it is the home of Villanova's various performing arts and teaching communities. And it's an incredible building for folks who haven't had a chance to visit. And it's actually on the cover of the most recent Villanova magazine, which I have brought, which I think is so exciting.
Very cool. Have people been signing it?
They have.
Like a yearbook?
They have.
Excellent.
I've been taking it around. But you know, deservedly so. It's a great place. So I'm so excited to have you here to talk today about the center, about what's coming up for the remainder of the year, and what folks can look forward to for next year. So if you'd like to introduce yourself first, tell me about your role at the Mullen Center and how long you've been at Villanova.
Wow, that's a great question. Well, again, I'm Parris Bradley. I'm the Executive Director of the Mullen Center for the Performing Arts. I've been at Villanova for about 25 years. I started out in the theater department, and prior to that, I worked in Philadelphia theater for many years before. Father Peter asked me to run the Performing Arts Center after serving on the committee for about 10 years of development for the building, and then I took over as the director of the building and left the theater department. So now I run the entirety of the building itself.
That's me. I love hearing origin stories of the folks, my colleagues, and you know, I think that's a common theme. Folks are really embedded in the community. And you mentioned Father Peter. Father Peter, I don't know if most folks may not know, he is a theater. I don't want to say person. I don't want to diminish his role in the theater. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that and his role in bringing the Mullen Center.
Well, certainly Father Peter Donahue was the president of the university, and prior to that he was the chair of the theater department. In fact, he actually hired me at Villanova University, and I've actually worked for him for many years prior to him becoming the president in a theater capacity. I've worked for him as a technical director, as a production manager, as a designer, those kinds of things. I've also been on the same stage with him because he also is an actor and director as well. So I've had lots of different sort of crossroads with Father Peter. That's amazing. That's so interesting. I mean, I know that Father Peter is not shy about performing in various venues, so that must have been so much fun. It is to perform with. Yeah, absolutely. And theater people are like that. Theater people do lots of different things. We do everything from hang a light to being on stage to sweeping up the floors and unclogging toilets. That's what theater people do because we love it and we're impassioned about live entertainment and art, and the performing arts is a specialty and stuff like that. So theater people are a unique brand of people. So I'm very, very blessed to be able to be chosen to be the director of the building, and I really, really value that experience. Oh, that's great. Thank you so much for sharing those stories. So I know that when the Mullen Center was completed, it was originally scheduled to open in 2020. And it's like so many other things that the world had other plans for us, and the way that it was meant to be open, it just didn't come to fruition. But in the face of a pandemic and you know, sort of upending all of our lives, the building is not only designed as a performing arts space, but also as an educational space. So it would be great if you could talk a little bit about how that looked in 2020, about how the building's various uses came into play, and how that looks now. Oh, wow, that's a pretty detailed question. Well, yes, so as the world stopped on us, we were unable to actually do our actual performative events during the first part of the COVID experience. We pivoted pretty quickly to doing many things, one of which is that we converted many of our spaces into classrooms that weren't previously designed as classrooms. And as we did that, we did social distancing. We actually were able to record a lot of the lectures and the classes themselves and put them up online for the students who were working from home. We were able to actually archive a lot of lectures during that time period. We also did about 50 or so performative events during that first part of COVID, and we did that with no audiences, but we filmed stuff, and we filmed stuff for the theater department itself. We also filmed things for the student groups. We filmed stuff for even a sorority doing skits, and we did some other sort of one-off lectures and workshops and stuff like that. So we did pivot to that world, and we're able to put everything up online for our students and our faculty and our staff. So it was a pretty exciting time actually for us. The other good thing is that during the first 6 months of our building, it was difficult to sort of get into where everything was. It was brand new. So I used to make a sort of joke that it was nice to actually have a little bit of reprieve because we were able to figure out where the light switches were. So it was nice. So instead of being dropped into a lot of performative events with a lot of audience participation, stuff like that, we are able to learn all of our technology and all those kinds of things, all that troubleshooting in sort of this very controlled environment for this first 4 months or 6 months or so. So it was actually kind of a blessing to actually help the building that way. So then when we got revamped back up and were able to do performance events, we in fact did know where the light switches were, which was very exciting. And we're able to have ushers, we're able to have digital ticketing, we're able to have actually all our video and our lighting and our sound working at optimum levels. So that was superb, which is unusual that when art centers open, that you get to open sort of casually, which is what happened to us. And now we're full on. We're actually doing a ton of performances in our building, and we're thrilled to death to be able to do it and support it.
Oh, that's great. It's nice. You had a little bit of a runway.
We did.
There.
It was nice.
And there's quite a bit of technology and in the building itself. I've had a chance to be in there, and it's really set up for a variety of events. You've had televised events, not only just live theater events. So was that a big priority when going into that building's design, making sure that it was equipped for a variety of different uses in that way?
Absolutely. The building was actually designed to be an educational facility first. And one of the things that was one of the sort of ideas behind it is that it's actually for the whole campus. It's not just for the people that do the performing arts. So it supports educational endeavors first and foremost. And with that, we invite lots of other disciplines all over the campus to enjoy our building and utilize our building. That said, we do have 3 theater spaces in there, and our primary sort of service goes to the performing artists on campus. In the building itself, we actually have the theater department. Their academic offices and their production offices are both in the building. And they do 4 main stage shows a year, plus a variety of other performative events included in their season as well. Excuse me. We also have 21 undergraduate performing arts groups on campus, which is outstanding.
I didn't realize it was that many.
Yes, we have a lot. In fact, we have over 700 undergraduate performing artists on campus itself. So one of the things that was part of the mission of the building was to be able to give these students an outlet for the things that they really love to do, which in many cases is to perform. So we have lots of dancers, singers, comedians, musicians, etc. that get to use this building to its full tilt, which is great. They get to have audiences. We also can film them, video and audio. We can support them with all sort of professionalism, which they didn't really have in place prior to this building. This includes the theater department as well. So the theater department actually now has a building that actually has 3 performance spaces in it, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But the technology is state-of-the-art. The space that they came from before was a beautiful space, but it was a converted lecture hall with a lot of old technology. So we actually spent a lot of time repairing this stuff in order to make everything work well. In this case, we actually have lots of state-of-the-art lights, sound, and video that supports the theater department in their artistic and educational endeavors, which is really nice. So now the theater department gets to spend a lot more time making art and educating their students and not worrying so much about the broken technology.
Right, they're focusing on the things that their creative really endeavors and their educational endeavors. That's fantastic. Do you feel, have you seen an increase in interest in the performing arts or in performing arts groups or just a general, are there more students who are participating in this world now than there were before, now that there's a facility for it?
Wow, I certainly hope so. So one of the jokes that we had when we built the building is that we had a sort of field of dreams sort of idea that, if we build it, they will come, and they certainly have. This past weekend is a great example that we had sold out houses all weekend for a series of jazz concerts, concert band, dance programming, and singing programming. Virtually all these performances were sold out. The theater department has seen a very large increase in their attendance and their community engagements because people really want to come to the Arts Center and see the arts here at Villanova University. And what's really nice is that we have a great lobby space. We actually have 3 lobbies in the building, so we actually can have post and pre-parties and meet and greets with the community, the students, the performers, the directors, etc., which is very exciting to be able to integrate at that level. The other thing is that it's actually perfectly situated on our campus. So the Art Center is at the corner of Eichen and Route 30, and directly adjacent to it is a parking garage. So parking is superb. You literally can go park in your garage there and walk across a little alley and you're inside the Performing Arts Center. And then across the way, also on 9th Avenue, is a little coffee shop and a restaurant. So it really is like a mini little sort of center where you can actually have dinner and drinks and see a show and have a great date night.
Yeah,
it's perfect.
It is, and you don't have to walk too far if it's cold or rainy or any of those things. It really is.
We love that.
Oh, that's fantastic. So you mentioned sold out houses. That's fantastic. How big is the Mullen Center? How many theaters are inside of it? What are their uses? What are their space? Who performs and where?
Wow.
So I know that's probably a very broad question.
It's a great question. I have a lot of enthusiasm for this building, so I'm very, very thankful that you asked those questions. The building is about 80,000 square feet. It's actually relatively small for a performing arts center. Villanova's undergraduate population is about 6,500, so we actually are kind of a small campus. Many people think that Villanova is much larger than that, I think mainly because of the basketball team, and you get a lot of notoriety that way. Many people feel that it must be a big campus, but it's actually not. So in the 80,000 square feet, we have a lot of support services in there, but I'll start with the theaters. We have 3 theaters. The largest is the Topper Theater, which holds about 400. This is the classic design of a proscenium theater space. The next space is actually called the Court Theater. This roughly holds about 200, but what's really exciting about the Court Theater is that the seating can be changed around to support different kind of staging for the performers that actually use that space. The Court Theater actually is the primary space for the theater department's programming, although they use all of our spaces, including our hallways, including our lobbies, because as theater people, we actually perform anywhere that we're willing to do a space. So they use everything in the building, but their primary space is the Court Theater. The last theater actually is the Smith Performance Lab, and it holds roughly around 60 people. That actually is a perfect size, and weirdly enough, our most popular space in the building. Because of its capacity, honestly, because the capacity being 60 means that a lot of the performing groups that can use that love the idea that they can do multiple performances. Oftentimes, particularly in high schools, you'll rehearse musicals perhaps for 5 or 6 weeks, and then you perform it once or twice in these big, gigantic auditoriums that these high schools often have. So then grandma and grandpa, mom and dad, and everybody, all the family have to come, but they only get really 2 opportunities to see it in this big arena. By having a smaller capacity, they can do longer runs, which is really great. So they get to work on their craft, build community, and actually give a lot more opportunities for audiences to come and see their performances. So it's actually worked really terrifically. That's why the 60-seat theater is very popular. People really like that very much. So I sort of describe the 3 spaces this way. The small space being 60-seat, the Smith Performance Lab, I call it sort of our sandbox. We do call it a lab because the building, like I said at the top of this interview, is actually an educational facility. So it's about the teaching. So that space is a sandbox for teaching and making mistakes, and small capacity allows for that for sure. So that's a great space to build and work on your craft. The second space is the Court Theater, the 200-seat theater. I actually call that sort of like a warehouse feel to it. They can do a lot of experimental pieces in there, but being able to change the staging around means that we can do things in end stage, we can do things in thrust, we can do things in arena, tennis court, runway, flat floor. It's very exciting. And it's very exciting for the theater department from a design perspective, because that means that their designers can actually design not only what the audience sees on stage, but how the audience sees it. So by actually telling and sort of configuring the space around, that means the audience members can actually get a different view of a performance depending on where they sit in the theater for that show, and then it changes up from show to show. So it's very exciting that way.
Yeah.
The last space is the Topper Theater, 400-seat theater. This is a classic proscenium theater. It has a show curtain on it. It's beautiful inside and out. This space is actually being used for all sorts of stuff, including the theater department. They use it for their musicals. In the spring, we actually had Father Peter Donahue direct Curtains, the musical, in that space. But we also use that for dance concerts. We also use it for our choral concerts, our a cappella concerts, our jazz band, etc. It actually is very versatile in that capacity. We also do a lot of workshops in there, lecture series, trainings in there. And this space is actually very much a professional theater space. It has a fly house, which means we can fly scenery in and out and actually bring lights and sound in as well. We have show curtains attached to it. We have an orchestra pit and a stage lift that's actually attached to this facility as well, or this theater itself. So that is a very exciting, I call that space the jewel box theater because it's so beautiful and impressive when you walk in and see it.
It really is. And I think it was surprising in the best possible way when I first saw it. And I think you don't, necessarily are expecting that. And it really is special. It's a really, really special place.
It is. And beyond the 3 theater spaces, we have all the support spaces as well. So we also have a scenery and set shop that's double high and has all the complements of all the construction tools they could possibly need. The costume shop as well. These are venues that actually support the theater department primarily, but are also used for our other performing groups on campus as well. So we have those. We also have a series of dressing rooms, green rooms, those things. We also have 5 classrooms in this building, which is very exciting. We have 2 regular classrooms, which I call generic classrooms. These are like the sort of traditional, you sit and you have a lecturer at the front. These are great classrooms for not only the theater department, but also for the other disciplines in the university itself. We also have an acting classroom, we have a dance studio, and we have a choral room. In addition to those spaces, we have 2 little practice rooms that are soundproof, that the students can go in there and they practice their instruments, their singing, there's pianos in there, they can work on some lines, or they can just use them for some private space itself. So there's actually those spaces as well. One of the things that was part of the interesting thing about doing the building is that we wanted to make sure that we didn't have a siloed building. Right. We wanted to make sure that our Villanova community would use it and be invited into the building. So we invented all sorts of sneaky ways to do that. One of which is that these 2 generic classrooms that I talked about just before. And this is the idea that we bring in other disciplines around the campus and bring their classes into our building, sort of breaking down that barrier. Right. So we do have people that are not interested in the performing arts, perhaps don't know anything about theater. They come into our building, have a class for a different discipline, and then trip over these sort of performing artists and say, you know what, maybe I will go see this Shakespeare performance and that kind of thing. That was sort of our sneaky way to do it. The other sneaky way we did it was actually put a lot of study pods throughout the building with the idea that students can use our building for their studying, for their meetings on those kinds of things, and use it like they would use a library. We have several folks who come in at 9 o'clock in the morning and don't leave until 9 o'clock at night. They bring their lunch, they hang out all day, and they study in the hallways, and they really enjoy it. So it's been really, really great. The building's alive all day long, so it's terrific.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's just, it's so wonderful to hear about the aliveness of it, all the life that's happening and all the different activities that are going on at any given time. So that was a wonderful overview of how our campus community uses the building. Are performances open to the public? Can the community come and be a part of this as well?
Absolutely. So the theater department has always been very active in drawing in the local community to their shows. They have over 600 subscribers, part of their season package, and many of them pull from the local community of Radnor and a little bit beyond. So they've always done a really, really good job of that. The newer thing is our undergraduate student performing groups. They haven't really had the opportunity nor the venues to support a lot of community attendance into their performances, but that is changing. And the best way to find out about what's going on in our building is actually simply just go to our website. And the best way to find our website, honestly, is just Google Mullen Center, Villanova. You'll pop right in, and you'll see all of the programming that we do there. And many of the shows are they're ticketed, and some of them are just walk-in events, and all that's sort of articulated on the website. And we welcome everyone from the community to come and see all of our performances, for sure. We also have a lot of educational programming as well, other than the student groups. So we have some what they call ACS programming, and in the springtime we're bringing Curtis Institute out. Oh, wow. And they have been very successful. The ACS program has been very successful bringing in programming for our students that are also open to the community. So we've done jazz programming, classical music programming, dance programming, all with a sort of academic bent that is absolutely open to our local community. So I encourage everyone to go to our website and find out what's going on.
Oh, that's so exciting. And that's something that part of my job, I'll make sure to communicate that out to our neighbors as well. So for the remainder of 2022, I know it's holiday time, and at Villanova, I've been there for about a year now, and Villanova goes really big on the holidays. It's a really wonderful time of year to be on campus. What's happening for the remainder of the year in the Mullen Center? I know that students are getting ready to leave, so I don't know what's left, but or what have you done for the holidays and what is left?
We've just concluded one of our biggest weekends, to be honest with you, so we're kind of done as far as exterior programming is concerned. We have a bunch of programming for thesis projects and some theater department end of the year projects and stuff like that that aren't particularly open to the community, although the community would never be turned back if they want to come. But they're mainly academic sort of events. So we don't really kick back up in earnest until maybe February.
Oh, okay.
So we start a little slow in January. Essentially, it's hard to get the machine rolling at the top of every semester. The kids really need to actually get back on campus, spend the first 2 or 3 weeks getting sort of acclimated to the new semester, and then their sort of performative aspirations come out after that. But the theater department has 2 shows coming up in the spring. One of which is Chrysalis in February. This is an excellent play that this play was developed at Villanova University through a playwriting program, and it's actually getting a main stage treatment in February, so we're very excited about that. And then in the big space in the Topper Theater, we're doing Sunday in the Park with George. Oh. So the theater department's very excited about this programming. So those are 2 big offerings from the theater department. For the undergraduate population, we have a series of dance and singing concerts that mainly are centered upon late March and April. So a hot time for us, for the student performances, are really the end of semesters. So November and December for the fall semesters are hot time for them. And then for the spring semester, it really is late March in April. But at that time, we have a bunch of dance programming, a bunch of singing programming, and a bunch of student club theater offerings as well. So we're actually looking forward to all of that stuff very much.
Great. So it'll be a busy spring.
We love it. We love an active art center for sure. That's exactly what we want. And we want people to be invited and feel included in the operations there and all the performances that occur there. So we're very excited about the activities.
Well, that is fantastic. Well, we are just about at our time. I want to thank you so much for joining me today and for sharing all of this wonderful information about the Mullen Center and about the performances and the students and all of the life that's happening in that building. And we hope that our neighbors and community will participate in the upcoming months.
Please. Thank you so much for inviting me. I really enjoyed it.
Absolutely. My pleasure. For more information on all of the great things happening at Villanova and for ways to get involved, please visit www.villanova.edu/neighbors.